Alright, so now let's do the preview of these last free game that's going to be taking place tomorrow. And then these are also the last free game of this opening weekend of the MLS season. And we'll start off with Inter Miami taking on the LA Galaxy, which will be happening at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. But the kickoff will not start until 3:23 p.m. And I believe this game is going to be either on ESPN or ABC. But either way, everybody knows this is the David Beckham derby, as David Beckham, who currently owns Inter Miami, will get a chance for his team to face against his former team that he used to play for about 10 years ago. Inter Miami, in their last season opener, they lost 1-0 to LAFC, and actually it wasn't their last season opener, but actually their first ever game in club history, where they unfortunately suffer a 1-0 loss on the road against LAFC. While for the Galaxy, they drew 1-1 to the Houston Dynamo in their last season opener away. The last 5 season opener for both of these teams. For Inter Miami, I mentioned their only season opener, which was their first game in club history. They lost 1-0 to LAFC. For the Galaxy, they drew 1-1 against Houston, won 2-1 against the Chicago Fire, also won 2-1, but this time to the Portland Timbers. But they did lose 2-1 on the road or at home against FC Dallas before winning 4-1 against DC United in the 2016 season opener. Now, not only the fact that I mentioned before this is the David Beckham derby, but I would also like to say this is kind of like the new head coach derby, because both of these teams is going to be heading into this game with their head coach taking charge of them for the very first time. For Phil Neville, this is going to be his first game in charge for Inter Miami, and for the Galaxy, it's going to be Greg Vanney first game in charge of this team, and we shall see who will potentially come out of this, maybe get their first victory for their new team, or maybe if we are not going to see a win by either of these teams, maybe both of these head coach might get themselves their first point of the new team that they are coaching heading into this season. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Columbus Crew taking on the Philadelphia Union. So a lot of people say that this is basically the Super Cup of MLS, because you got the defending Supporters Shield champion take on the defending MLS Cup champion. Although the thing about the Super Cup of MLS is that isn't the Super Cup of MLS really is when the defending league winner and defending MLS Cup winner actually take on the US Open Cup? Because I know in other leagues, when you see a Super Cup happening, it's usually the team that won the league versus the team that won the domestic trophy. But I guess maybe since last year there was no US Open Cup, I guess maybe the Supporters Shield is kind of like a substitute. So therefore, I think that it maybe is the reason why people say that this is pretty much the Super Cup of MLS. But this game is going to be taking place at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff will not start until 5:55 p.m. local time, as this game is going to be taking place on FS1. Columbus, of course, won 1-0 to NYCFC at home in their last season opener, while for the Union, they lost 2-0 to FC Dallas, and it's actually on the road that they lost 2-0, not at home, as I wrote here on the board, in their last season opener. In their last 5 season opener for Columbus, as I mentioned, they won 1-0 against NYCFC, but drew 1-1 against the other New York team, the New York Red Bulls. Then they won 2-0 on the road against Toronto, drew 1-1 against the Chicago Fire at home, and lost 2-1 on the road against the Portland Timbers. For the Union, they lost 2-0 on the road in their last season opener against Dallas, lost 3-1 at home against Toronto, won 2-0 against New England at home before settling a 0-0 draw against the Vancouver Whitecaps on the road, and also losing to FC Dallas once again in the season opener, but this time in 2016 by the same scoreline as the scoreline that they lost to Dallas in their last season opener. But yeah, this should be a very interesting game, in that, obviously when I talk about most of these matches, sometimes when there is going to be a team that was involved in CCL and that they're coming into the first game of the season against a team that is not involved CCL, I always have that question whether or not if the team that has already played in CCL and already have competitive match under their belt coming into the season opener is going to get the advantage over a team that hasn't played a competitive match in over 4 months. But in this case, both of these teams, of course, are coming off of CCL action, and both of them, of course, did win their CCL game. And I think if you would say maybe who has the advantage, even though both of these teams have played CCL, I guess maybe Columbus does have the advantage because Columbus really rested a lot of their starters, and that Caleb Porter didn't really bring some of his starter until the second half. While for the Union, they pretty much started their strongest squad in that game against Saprissa, and eventually Jim Curtin did substitute some of his starters in the second half when the game was pretty much out of reach. But still, I think the Crew is probably going to have the fresher squad coming in terms of the starters, but we'll see whether or not if that is going to make any difference. And yeah, either way, this should be a very good game between two of these teams that a lot of people think that they could be two of the top team in the Eastern Conference. But finally, moving on into the last game of this opening weekend's action is the Vancouver Whitecaps taking on the Portland Timbers, as this game is going to be taking place at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, but the game won't kick off until 8:08 p.m. local time. And you see how here I actually wrote 8:08 p.m. local kickoff time and not 7:07 p.m. local time, because for those that probably are maybe haven't heard the news, or actually living under a rock. Well, actually, I wouldn't say living under a rock. I think that's kind of too harsh for people that haven't followed MLS pretty much throughout the off season. But Vancouver is also another team alongside with the other Canadian team that unfortunately have to play their home game in a neutral venue here in the States. And for Vancouver, they of course will be playing at Rio Tinto Stadium, at least for the first couple of games at home, and they of course will start that by playing against the Timbers. Now, the Whitecaps last season, they lost their season home opener to Sporting KC 3-1, while for the Timbers, they also did the same thing. They also lost 3-1 in their season home opener, but this time it's to Minnesota. Last 5 season opener for both of these teams. For the Whitecaps, they lost 3-1 against Sporting KC, lost 3-2 to Minnesota in their 2019 season opener. They did win 2-1 against Montreal in the 2018 season opener, but then they drew 0-0 against the Union before losing 3-2 at home in their season home opener. So their season opener record has definitely not been great in the last 5 years. Now for the Timbers, they lost 3-1 against Minnesota at home for their season home opener. Then they drew 3-3 against the Portland Timbers, and I mentioned this before on Thursday preview that this was the Snow Classico, and will be a game that I think a lot of people will remember as one of the best season opener we have ever seen in league history. Then they lost 2-1 on the road against the Galaxy before winning 5-1 against Minnesota and winning 2-1 against the Columbus Crew. So again, both of these teams haven't been really good in their season opener in these last couple of years, but there's no doubt the Timbers are going to be heavily favored in this game, knowing the fact that after what we saw, that what they did against Marathon back on Tuesday, I know they're probably going to have a squad that is definitely not going to be the fresher side compared to the Whitecaps playing for the very first time. But when you look at how the Timbers have already looked, and especially how good that attack has already looked, yeah, for the Whitecaps, this could be a long night for them. But you never know. Maybe Mark Dos Santos, I mentioned how his team has kind of made some off-season acquisition. They're looking to try to be a little bit better than what they did last season. Maybe they can spring in a little bit of a surprise in this one, but still, at the end of the day, I think the Timbers are going to be the heavy favorites in this one, and probably is going to get all 3 points in this game. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for this quick preview, looking at the last free game of the opening weekend's action in the 2021 MLS season. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these free games, and as always, let me know in the comments also your prediction for all 3 of these games. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.